Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is for you too. This is Pastor Dowell. I've got a few things that I want to talk about here this morning. And the reason why I want to talk about them is because it's very important for you to know what's going on in this world. Because you know just as well as I do, with this controlled propagandized news media, we're going to get the American twist or the U.S. twist of world events slanted the way that they want us to hear it and see it. And that's the reason why it's good that we have the advent of the internet and stuff where we can get a bunch of different perspectives and then we can come to our own conclusion, because ultimately, if we do not understand what's going on in the world today, remember, we are destroyed for a lack of knowledge. And sometimes the powers that be, or let's just say all the times the powers that be, they think it's in your best interest for you to not know. Because, you're very limited in function. You're very limited in action. You're very limited in how you go about your everyday life if you simply just don't have knowledge to know what to do about certain things or how to even prepare yourself. That's the reason why Pastor Dowell also suggests over and over and over again that you always look outside of the news sources of the United States of America and get a well-rounded view. Because, I'm just going to tell you the truth. Our country has just done nothing but lie to us ever since its inception. I can't think of anything that is honest and truthful about them whatsoever at all, especially when they're talking to us. Some of us, because we are Americans, we just assume that anything that they put out is right. But when you start to go and check behind the things that they tell us and stuff, we find out that these people, man, they got some serious problems. They just simply cannot tell the truth. So why am I here this morning? Well, anyway, China is becoming a very, very big player and a very, very big obstacle for the United States of America, because America is still going forth and pressing forth and making all of its noise about continually keep saying that Iran is trying to get a nuclear bomb or enriching uranium and stuff. But anyway, I'll get to that a little bit later on. But China is not paying attention to America, and you need to know that. And China's not afraid of America, and you need to know that. Neither is Russia afraid of America, and you need to know that. And Iran is not afraid of America, and you need to know that. The Roman Empire, commonly called America, is on a serious decline, and everybody's starting to flex their muscles right now. And you have to understand the reason why the Chinese is not going to listen one bit to what America has to say, because they are the largest holder of our bonds. And the only thing America has to do is just make noise the wrong way. One time, up goes the interest rate to 5 to 6%. And you know what that in essence is going to do? That's going to bankrupt us as a country. And the only way that America is going to be able to get out of this debt that they owe is we got to go to war. And they don't want you people to know this. And that's just all there is to it, because if anytime a borrower is always a servant to the lender. Can you imagine our president going over and posturing before the Chinese and stuff and begging for money in order to keep our economy, in order to keep our civilization as we know it afloat? We're supposed to be America. The dollar is still the world's reserve currency. Why in the world are we acting like that today? Because the borrower is a servant to the lender. And I'm going to tell you right now that since China is the second biggest importer in the whole entire world right now, I can tell you right now that China is not going to pay no attention to America or anybody else as far as they're concerned. Let me give you some ideas right here. You see, I'm sitting up here thinking to myself, and I'm thinking, brainstorming, how in the world can a country that is over $64 trillion in debt, they go and beg a communist country, allegedly, supposedly, for money, trillions of dollars in money in order to keep them afloat? Because you notice China's not giving us no more money anymore. You notice that, right? What's openly going to end up happening is we're going to end up just buying our own treasuries. We're going to buy our own bonds. That's all there is to it. And it's just going to, hyperinflation is just right down the road. That's all there is to it. But anyway, but can you imagine us trying to tell people what they're going to do, especially when we're indebted to them? I can tell you right now that I don't understand the attitude and the nature of a bankrupt country assuming the position and the posture that they can just go and dictate and mandate to all these other sovereign countries in the world. Now, hey, you watched it just as well as I have. You watched the United States of America go beat up on these little small countries. But you notice every time Russia says something, we ain't quick to act. You ever notice every time China says something, and I'm telling you, man, they're sticking their chests out literally at us. America's not quick to act. All of a sudden, we want to exercise diplomacy when it comes to dealing with Russia, China, and Iran. Isn't that remarkable and amazing? But the rest of these little bitty small countries, kind of like a big old bully. You know, you got this big old bully that's like 6'10", weigh 350 pounds, and then you got this little bitty a boy over here that's barely 5 feet and barely weighs 90 pounds soaking wet and stuff. And so the bully always exercises authority over. Well, you know, when you're dealing with someone like America, who's the 6'10" and 350 something pound guy, and then you're dealing with China, who's like 6'2" and weigh 275 and is pretty strong and stuff, they're not too much intimidated by a bully that's a little bit too bigger than them. And I'm telling you, I'm utterly amazed. I just got finished watching the news source where it said this. Listen to what it says. Listen to how they word it. It says this. It says that the U.S. has granted China temporary exemption from penalties for complying with these sanctions because they have complied with U.S. demands. Can you imagine the noise? Now, that's coming from our side. Now, China is not playing in this. I'm going to give you an example of how China thinks about this. In the last 6 months, China has increased its oil buying from Iran from 350,000 barrels of oil a day to 500,000 barrels of oil a day. Do you think that they're paying attention to what America got to say? Do you really truly think that they are paying attention? Do you think that they care one bit about American sanctions against Iran? You see, the problem is this. America is trying to force all these other countries to stop their imports to Iran. They want these other countries, you need to comply. You need to comply. Well, hey, what are you going to do when you get people like Russia and China who are not even buying oil in dollars anymore? They ain't playing the game. They're actually buying it from Iran in GOLD, gold. Can you imagine that? So America's plea is just a little sorry cry. Ah, that's about it. That's all you're getting from them because ain't nobody paying attention. My question is why is it any of our business whatsoever at all to make it our business to be concerned about Iran having a nuclear weapon? I want to ask you all a question out there. How many weapons, nuclear weapons, does that country, Israel, have? How many? And Iran doesn't even have one yet. You know, we went over at Iraq on the trumped up charges that they were developing weapons of mass destruction. And here we are just about 12 years later, and we've come up with a big old gigantic goose egg. All we've got is nothing but lies. And in the midst of all these lies, guess what? We've had more handcuffs put on us as American people. We've lost what you call civil liberties that's been granted by the so-called government. We are treated like the terrorists over here in America under the guise of we have to protect ourselves from a terrorist. I mean, I tell you what, all the mindset is just off the chain. And when I go fly at the airport, because I opt out of those cancer scans, I'm not about to sit up there and let me go through that. I don't trust a word that they say, but I sit and watch all the people go through those things like a bunch of sheep to the slaughter. Later on in life, they're going to wonder why come they end up with cancer and stuff as many times they walk through those things because of convenience. Anyway, I said about enough on this. I done beat this dead horse enough, but I think you get the picture. Why all of this? Why am I saying all this? Because you need to preserve yourself, because your country definitely ain't thinking about you at all.